Hi guys, welcome. You see, she sings everything. welcome to another Digital Jamaica live show. I am
You
your
see when you
host,
have
Katie
too much
Francis.
show? You see when you have too
Did
much
I just
show,
forget the
you
name of
don't
my own
know
show?
which show
Oh
this
God.
one is. Talk to you
Yes.
now.
When you need to watch things, When you need to watch things. Hi
Yes.
guys. Hey Venice. Hi Tracy. Hi Island Chica.
Hi, Cads.
Welcome, everyone. Where is Cat? Why do you see? I'm trying to not put on my glasses because I think I look cuter without it, but I can't see nothing. So the glasses are gone. Right, the cuteness done. So
Done.
it's
Done. Deep
died.
and done.
Yes. Hi, Sisters Inc. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. All right. So we have an awesome show lined up for you guys tonight with an amazing guest. I'm going to say, well, put our command because of the guests, but like a mark on the face. I make a personal message, and go have our next show next week. Yes.
Yes,
Right?
guys. So, joining us for our hot topic segment on fintech and how it can be used to develop a local digital economy is the amazing Ingrid Riley. She's a technopreneur, founder of the Silicon Caribbean blog, and an award winning tech blogger,
Yeah,
right? So,
you.
we super duper excited for an amazing show today. But first, before we dive into the conversation, what's new on Digital Jamaica? What's happening with us?
Uh-huh.
So, the Launch 2021 Digital Workshop Series starts next week, Friday.
Woo,
So,
woo, woo.
guys, we've been talking to you guys about the entire series. You have been finding out information. You've got your teasers. Our first workshop is with Victoria Taylor, who was with us last week, and she's going to be teaching you guys how to create a solid multi-channel content marketing strategy. You know where the link to sign up there, it's in our bio, so make sure that you are registered. Additionally, our Digital Jamaica people to watch, you guys have been sending in your applications because we've gotten
Yes,
so
over
many applications.
200.
We are actually closing off a week earlier than planned. We're closing off on December 5th, but we're giving you guys enough notice. Make sure if you never submit somebody's name yet, no more laying. Go register them, go put them in, go nominate them. We're closing off. You need to get your name in. And if you think that you've been doing some stuff in the tech digital spaces, nominate yourself.
Yes, definitely. Now, let's talk Digital Jamaica media, right? So, from the beginning, one of the biggest plans I had for Digital Jamaica was to build out a media production arm because at the time I thought I could do media until I run into media. So we produce digital content, all centered around the local and regional tech scene. So we started with the blog and the podcast. I know we have this live show. But there's more that we
Yes.
want to do because we realize that you guys like the content based on your feedback and all of that. So we want to announce
Dun, dun, dun,
that's my drum roll. A new show to the platform. So in the first quarter of 2021, we will be producing new pieces of content for the Digital Jamaica platform to include a
Mhm.
show hosted by the 2020 Lady Boss of the Year runner-up JBDC, Miss Monique
Hold on.
McIntosh.
Let's
Yay!
prove
Right?
my
So
award.
Monique, we're working on a show that Monique will be hosting by herself. Okay. And it's going to be awesome because y'all know that Monique knows her stuff. Right. So that's going to happen in the first quarter of 2021. And there's going to be some other show. Hi, Auntie Pat. Welcome,
Hi,
welcome,
Auntie
welcome.
Pat.
All right. So the Digital Jamaica blog and podcast is getting a facelift for 2021. New year, new thing, dust it off, come back again. So we're relaunching in January 2021, and the blog will have a new look. And we're going to be producing more features from guest contributors as well. So if you're in the tech and digital space and you're good at writing or not, or just have concepts and you outline something and you need some help writing it out, and you need a platform to help promote your writing, because you guys know we always tell you one way you can exercise your expertise is through your writing. So we are offering you a space on our blog to get your writing out. We're going to be producing more podcast episodes, so we're going to be moving from one episode per month to two, because that's all we have extra time for. And that is going to stress me, but in the early part of the year, we're going to be putting out some lost interviews, because I had a big systems crash, and I had lost a lot of my pre-recorded interviews. I've been able to recover some. I was slowly putting them out, but I'm going to just do a massive thing in January and put those all out. So you'll be able to hear from those, because those persons gave me their time. So I really want to make it worth their while. All right. And we'll be adding some other interesting segments and such to the podcast. So we're going to zhuzh it up and make it a little bit more,
Listen,
right?
guys,
Yes.
we have a whole heap of stuff in store for you, and something that I forgot to mention with regards to the Digital Jamaica people to watch for 2021, guys. We have some plans. We have some things that
Ooh.
we're literally assiduously working. You see that same energy that you guys have been putting in terms of your nominations, double it, triple it, and you're still not close to what we're putting in for our shortlisted, for the persons who are actually going to be finalists, right? So you really want to make sure that you have your nominations in. All right,
Yeah.
just wanted to get that in. Now, for our Digital Jamaica Live, you guys will remember we are going to be moving to YouTube when we start in January. But you can always catch last week's show replay. It's now up on YouTube. The link is in our bio for that as well, so you can always go and check out the content that maybe you missed something, maybe you want to replay something, or maybe you want to share it with a friend. So somebody who wasn't able to jump on, and you can share it with them. We really
Right.
indulge your support. Now, on another note, the last show for 2020, the last Digital Jamaica Live, is going to be next week, Thursday. We're taking a break from the Digital Jamaica Live show for the rest of the year. You know, we have our launch 2021 coming up, and then there's Christmas and stuff like that. So we're taking a little break after next week's show. So you have to come show up. You have to come show out, and you have to spend some time with it next week. Like you
Yes.
can't just
We're
leave it.
planning a really nice show for you guys next week.
All right.
Yeah.
So in on the next gear now, we still have to give you some news. So we're sprinkling it in before we go into our juicy conversation this evening. So we're doing our quick digital news roundup. What's going on, right?
Yeah.
So Belfield Primary and JCF have formed some sort of partnership. Now, in rural communities like Belfield in St. Mary, and literally all across Jamaica, but particularly in rural communities, internet access continues to be a huge problem.
Yep.
Uh, Now, what has happened, or what this has led, is that actually members of the JCF and the Belfield Primary School have come together, and they're forming a partnership to help up to 7 schools per week access online classes. As we talk about issues that come up with the pandemic, we also are looking at ways and how we're trying to help each other despite
Right.
difficulties.
Yeah, and it turns out that Belfield, the police station is the only place in the community that actually has access to internet. Hmm? Okay, digest that.
Oh boy.
All right. So the Ministry of Education has partnered with Microsoft. It's not the first time that they have. This is kind of a maybe like an extension of that partnership or a new part of that partnership, whatever. According to Loop News, the Ministry of Education and Microsoft have inked a US $15 million or JMD $2.1 billion partnership to provide free Microsoft Office 365 education software licenses to over 500,000 Jamaican students. Now, these students will have access to Microsoft's full Office suite, as well as access to other services like Microsoft Teams. Now, access will be at home and at school. So it's not just at school, they're going to have access to it at home as well. And they're also extending these licenses to teachers and principals.
Okay.
This is amazing news. This is awesome stuff. This is great.
Yeah.
But here's the rub for me, because I don't know, I have a complaint every week, right? Here's the rub for me. According to the Honorable Minister Favor Williams,
yes,
the ministry is pleased to note that students who use Office 365 education software in the classrooms are exposed to and ultimately become conversant with a suite of skills and applications that are highly valued by employers, giving them a head start not only in their career path, but as seekers of employment, also as creators of employment. Office 365. Microsoft Office is what future employers, the skills that future employers looking for. In what, this is what, 1999? I mean, listen, yes, and tertiary institutions as well, including a lot of including some teachers' college. So again, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
But I have a problem with the phrasing of that. No, I don't know if that's what she meant to say or...
No, that's what she meant to say.
Office 365 is nice. I have Office 365. I think it comes with a lot more features than regular Office. But Office is not what future employers going to be looking for. And as great as this is, what I want to know is, are we going to put digital education in the curriculum? Because that to me is a greater step, than Office 365.
Yeah.
Okay, so call me dramatic, but I just, as a Minister of Education, it sounds old-fashioned. It sounds like they don't have a core understanding of what the future of digital looks like. And that's where my worry comes in. Because if as the minister, your argument or your claim, you're going to say that this is what future employees are looking for, it means that you are just not there. You're just not there. And to top it off, then we had Minister Darrell Vaz. And you guys know we've had this conversation about Wi-Fi and hotspots in community centers and schools and all that, it's great. The only problem we had was, okay, so when is the public education part going to come in? Because then this is great, but are we telling the public that them can't use certain applications like them banking apps on free public Wi-Fi because then they're opening themselves up to risk, stuff like that. So we want to see the public education part coming with it, but we're not
doing the public education simultaneously.
I don't see any conversations happening about that.
Yeah.
So and remember, we are not a tech culture. We're not a digital culture. We're coming up the curve, but we're not there. So a lot of education has to take place. And this is why I'm so concerned and why I raised that, because the Minister of Us is going to say, and this is from the Jamaica Observer, he has 9 Wi-Fi hotspots that he has already established in major town centers to include Kingston and St. Catherine, etc. And by the end of the year, they're expecting to establish 4 more in Oche, Anata Bay, St. Mary, and Chapelton in Clarendon. The public Wi-Fi hotspots have been so far established in, I said that already.
Yeah.
Right. And then the minister said, if I'm not mistaken, that this is, he said something like, this is going to make Jamaica a digital society. Wi-Fi?
Well,
No,
access.
it sounds access to Wi-Fi. Access to
Yes,
Wi-Fi is not a trivial thing. But I
yes.
don't want us to it's like we're thinking small. And that's the problem I'm having. Microsoft 365 and Wi-Fi is not going to make Jamaica a digital society. And that's the point I'm making. If we're going to we use a lot of buzzwords, digital transformation and digital economy and a digital society and smart cities.
Let's get
Sounds
digital.
nice. You see the singing in the middle money because I think we should just start singing, right? So I'm beginning to wonder if the government and people in governmental positions they understand what being a digital society actually means. Because
I'm
as far
sorry,
as I'm
Kadia.
concerned, sorry?
Beginning. I said beginning. You're
Well,
beginning.
I can only go by what I saw, and I liked how the prime minister was talking. And he was like, businesses need to go digital, and I'm like, yeah, right. And you need to take the business to the people, not the people to the business. I'm like, yeah, right. And then Office 365 and Wi-Fi,
And you're like,
and I'm
yeah,
like, no,
yeah,
well, yes, but
yeah,
like more, right?
yeah.
So I mean, this is not peak digital. So I went and I looked up what digital society means because I can't criticize if I don't know what this thing means. And I had an idea in my head.
Yeah.
So, in order for us to have a digital society, Monique,
Mm-hmm.
friends,
Mm-hmm.
it means there has to be a full adaptation and integration of advanced technologies into our
Advanced, not basic.
economy, economy, culture, and social spaces.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of hesitation around tech in Jamaica. We saw
Yeah.
how long it took for people to do the work from home thing, and the minute they thought COVID ended,
They went
they
back.
ordered people back to work.
Yeah.
And then we had a spike again, and you're going, oh, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Right? So there is still some hesitation. When Scotia closed down some branches, when they announced that they were closing some branches, what happened? People protested. They were upset. Why? Because we are not a digital culture. That's not our thing, right? So public education needs to happen. People need to understand why this is so important, right? I don't see that happening. So we can't even talk about a digital society until we address the people and explain to them why this is necessary. And you know what would go far? The broadcast commission asked the MOE to make this law that digital education is going to be a part of the curriculum. That needs to be something that is not only policy but law, right? We don't hear nothing from that about that. We don't know what was the response to that. I don't even think they responded to that, not in any public way anyway. So
Yeah.
how can we talk about a digital society? We're not talking about the people, we're not talking about the children who are coming. How are we empowering everyday Jamaicans, much less businesses and entrepreneurs who have so many struggles, right? To become more digital. And that's the problem I'm having. And so digital means IT, so ICT, information and communication
Yeah.
systems, as well as highly advanced telecommunications and wireless connectivity systems, so Wi-Fi, yes. But it extends much further than that. It also considers how we use these technologies to empower our
Everything.
citizens, right?
Yeah.
And we've been prattling on and on about digital economy and e-commerce and e-commerce. There's a serious problem with e-commerce in Jamaica because we don't have certain things in place. So
Yeah.
empowerment looks like digital literacy and skills training built into school curriculums from kindergarten. It looks like a heavy focus on STEAM, so science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Backed, and all of this needs to be backed by policy frameworks,
Yeah.
regulations, and more than
Legislation.
anything, the
Yeah.
law,
Yeah.
legislation.
Yeah.
And so we'll pass the Data Protection Act after how long
10
it a
years. Yeah.
wash, run. And it not even have much teeth in it. I don't know what that is. Okay, it will pass a little thing.
Yeah.
What else? And the problem I have is there's nothing slowing us down, there's nothing preventing us from moving ahead with this thing,
Yeah.
and it's not even a matter of money. A lot of the software, a lot of these things are free out
Mhm.
there online.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm wondering what is almost, sometimes I feel like we hold ourselves back and there's nothing preventing us. It's not a money issue, it's a mindset issue.
Yeah.
So
And how
for us
willing
to
we
become
are to
a,
go for the information
yes,
too.
so if we are to become a truly digital society,
Yeah.
that means a complete mindset shift. And it's a far more complex conversation than freaking
That
Wi-Fi
Wi-Fi.
and Office 365. I just want, these are minor things. Me don't need you for hear, me don't need for hear announcement about these things. What me need for hear announcement about is public education, the curriculum, training, how the government itself is using technology because um I tried to apply for a birth certificate online the other day and the lady told me I have to come down at RGB. I may
Yeah.
go in a real life to say
Yeah.
yes. I
Yeah. In
can
a real
fill
life.
out the
Yeah.
form and submit it online, but I cannot pay for it online because they don't have no options to pay online. But we're talking about digital economy and e-commerce. I
Yeah.
mean, come on. I mean, listen, that was my
Well,
rant for
well,
tonight.
Lydia,
These things annoy me.
I think that that actually provides like the perfect segue into the conversation that we're having now, especially that example you just gave with RGD, because that's why the conversation around fintech is so necessary and why
Yes.
it's important for us as regular people, as citizens, as Jamaicans to understand these things too. It's not just a high level conversation. Ever since, and especially since COVID-19 hit, there's been so much conversation, like we've been saying, about how digital and the digital economy and the encouragement for businesses to reconsider not only their models, but to also take either their entire operations or parts of their operations online. But the biggest pain in the butt with that whole process is a lack of access to really modern financial services, things like your online payments or accepting mobile payments. You have some, like the banks have come up with a couple of them recently, but a lot of them
Yeah.
are either onerous, they have this long process we have to go through, or they're
Documents where you naga of.
cost prohibitive, because something where if we were going to connect an online payment system, Kadia, you literally spend 5 minutes filling out a form and you do a plug-in or you say okay. Like, what is this big build out system reinventing the wheel? Anyways, and the or it may include stuff like a social security number, or you have to be a resident of certain countries or a foreign bank account in order to get access to some of these really simple solutions.
Basic things where other people don't even think twice about.
No, literally they take 5 minutes and it's done. So we've been talking a lot about and busting our brains too in trying to find workarounds and stuff. But we wanted to talk with an expert. We wanted to talk about somebody who
Yeah,
know exactly how to direct or address the problem, and what
yeah,
some of those things would look like.
yeah,
So, and the reason why is because we know in order to reach where we want to with this whole integration and infusion of technology, we have to look at the financial sector. We have to look at integrating all of these different elements, or we're kind of shooting, we're kind of cutting off our legs before we
yeah.
learn how to walk. Yeah.
I think a lot of it too is, and as I said before, in other countries, people don't really think twice about third party payment processes. It's not a thing. They have so many options: PayPal, Stripe, Payoneer. There are so many options that it's just not even a thing for them. And the funny thing is, banks that are here, like Scotia, offer these services like it's nothing. If you have a Stripe account in Canada, you can link that to your Scotia account in Canada and get the money sent to you directly, no problem. So why is it that these services are not being offered here and we're also customers of the same banking institutions? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I want to know is it because we're not demanding better, or what is it? It seems, I don't know, but in any case, we have somebody who's online, as Monique said, who is the perfect person to have a conversation to. She's rational, she's level-headed, she's a creative thinker, and she's probably going to tell me that I'm wrong and I need to shut up, which is fine because I'd rather take that from her. Ingrid Riley is here, guys, and she
How are you
is a
doing?
digital media entrepreneur, award-winning tech blogger, as Monique said, podcaster, event producer, founder of Silicon Carib. In fact, when you talk about Ingrid, what a lot of people don't really understand is that Ingrid is an innovator in a major way in that it was her and her and Silicon Carib that kickstarted the tech startup scene in Jamaica. I
Yeah.
have spoken to a lot of persons on the podcast who go, it was Ingrid where I got my start, and the Kingston Beta where I actually got my start, where they pitched and got ideas and so. So Ingrid
Aw.
is a serious innovator in the space, and a lot
Lovely.
of persons know kind of like oh their careers to in some small way to her because of the inspiration that she has been to them,
Yeah.
some in a more direct way and some in a more indirect way. She has spoken for Hillary Clinton.
Oh,
Okay. Okay. So we're talking international. She has spoken on several panels, hosted several international panels all around tech. She's literally the go-to person in Jamaica and the Caribbean. She's also the founder of a new company called Rebel Girl Media, a digital media company that creates content and events that disrupts all Caribbean narratives. Oh,
oh Lord, we
Jesus.
need some
That's what we were
disruption.
just talking about. And amplifies the new Caribbean emerging. Baby.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, please tell me welcome. And Joel will only come on for Ingrid. Please help me
Hi, Joel.
welcome
Joel has been on
Ingrid
before.
Riley. No, just jump on, boom. I'm ready now for Ingrid, right? Welcome, 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 Ingrid. It's big deal.
Thank you
This
so
big
much.
deal.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
celebrity on the show. Celebrity on the show to talk to him, man.
Thank you for guys for having me. I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate the
Yes,
introduction. It's good to be here with
yes.
you guys.
Yes, I'm so excited. So,
Likewise.
we love the excitement over here. All right, so set the tone for the conversation, Ingrid. We've been saying fintech a lot, but we want to give persons like a general understanding of what do we mean when we're talking about fintech.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's start by putting things with some definitions and some context.
Yeah.
Right,
So, what fintech really is an innovative use of technology that is used to design and deliver financial services. So, it's really an
right,
approach to how we can actually improve and automate the flow of money, and the flow of money, for consumers and citizens like us,
Hmm.
as well as for businesses. And
yeah,
so fintech, financial technology has been around for a while, but it
Yeah.
really kind of, got kicked off in 2008, 2009, because it was that
mhm,
time when it was a global recession. And so the
yeah,
banks were caught a bit off kilter. And of course, the tech industry and digitally savvy consumers enter the chat and say, yo, Wagwan,
Yeah.
how can we actually apply technology to unbundle some of these very inefficient, painful, slow financial services? And
right,
so since then, it's been at a blistering pace from China and the United States. The African continent has pretty much been leading the charge where that is. But the goal
right,
of fintech, the essence of fintech really is about the ease and the flow of our money in a way that it makes our lives better. So we can buy things online or in person. We can pay our bills. We can invest in stocks and get insurance. We can transfer money from here to Mobile or from New York to Port of Spain. We can start businesses by testing different ideas online and having people pay us. They can swipe their card and that kind of thing. Or you want to
mhm,
crowdfund for something that you're doing. So
right,
that's a general, definitions and context of fintech. So it's really about the ease and flow of doing business as consumers, and of course doing business as businesses, as companies, as well.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you laid it out that way, because that perfectly segues into my follow-up question, which is
Mhm.
about fintech's role in not just economic development but digital economic development. What you just said
Mhm.
about being able to pay your bills and accept payment and transact online and doing all these things,
Mhm.
it is so important for a future a digital society, right?
Yeah.
So how do you see fintech helping us build out a robust and inclusive digital economy?
Well, I look at it from basically four tenets.
Right.
Fintech and its role in digital economic development. We have the policies, we have the regulations, we have,
Mm-hmm.
most important, the mindset, and of course, the talent and opportunity. Now, if we could start with maybe like, let's look at the global opportunity of fintech.
Yeah.
McKinsey did a report in 2016 that
Mm-hmm.
says if emerging economies get their act together and improve access to financial services using financial technologies, their GDP could raise like by 3.7 trillion US dollars. And
Wow.
most importantly, CARICOM member states could benefit the most because that would add like 10 to 12% of GDP. So we're talking about a ballooning, a blossoming of opportunity and of money and of wealth within that just by having access to financial services, right? And so we have to look at that. So that's basically the context. That's the global opportunity. Then, if we're
Yeah.
to basically ground it in where we are right now in Jamaica, the local reality is mostly around policy and mindset. Now, in March 2020, the Bank of Jamaica did one thing. They sort of updated their guidelines. What they call, I have it written on here, electronic retail payment services. They
Mm-hmm.
withdrew that, and then they put forth an updated guideline, which is basically what a lot of central banks have been doing around the world. They
Mhm.
created a fintech regulatory sandbox.
Right.
Yeah.
So that became ineffective in March 16. Ironically, around the time Rona kind of lick and say, "Yo, me there."
Yeah.
Um, so what this fintech sandbox seeks to do is to provide a framework, a guideline, a legal playground that seeks to widen the cross section of available financial services and products. It seeks to encourage innovation. It seeks to promote financial inclusion because we have like around 35% of Jamaicans that are unbanked for different reasons. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, this fintech sandbox seeks to also protect consumers because it's important to protect your identity, your privacy,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and of course, some people thief in your money,
Yeah.
right? So here's a rub with all this fintech sandbox though. If you want to play within this BOJ's regulatory sandbox, you have to partner with a bank or a credit union. Watch me where I flow with this. And of course, there is a 2-year testing period. And of course, after that, they can go forth and launch into the general marketplace. Now, so if you're in the business of trying to put out a product or launch a crowdfunding platform, a payment tool, some robot
Yeah.
advisor service, or something like that, you have to operate within this fintech sandbox, which they call a more relaxed regulatory framework in a more well-defined space. But here's the thing, what it really does is, in my mind anyway, that's my
Yeah.
opinion, is
Yeah.
that it allows the BOJ and the legacy banking system to remain in
On
control
top.
of
Intact.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It allows, they can see their competition coming. They get time to play catch up in terms of maybe modernizing things internally.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so basically the fintech revolution or the fintech innovation in Jamaica really is being determined by
By
the
the
Bank
bank.
of Jamaica.
Yeah.
And of course, these technocrats and their ability to understand the applications that come in and process these applications in a timely manner. For me, that's kind of weird for me, all right? Because we're entrepreneurs. We're used to just
Yeah.
like basically operating like a bull in a china shop, which can be good and bad
Yeah.
in certain ways, right? But we like to be free to do uncertain things and to test and to break things and to make things better and put things out to the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
No, it is said that BOJ has been stifling fintech innovation because they're somewhat gun
Yes.
shy about what happened in the 90s with the meltdown of the banking system and all that. And I get that too.
Yes.
But in
FinTech.
addition,
Yes.
yeah, FinSac, we were, a lot of people were FinSacked. And what has happened from that too is that on top of the whole FinSac and maybe that sort of a tentative or overly cautious approach to financial, fintech innovation, is
Yeah.
also that we have to do business internationally, and so there is that whole cloak of potential fraud or money laundering. And I want to urge you guys to.
Using our correspondent bank relationships.
Right, banker relationships, and of course, Jamaica is now on some blacklist that these um, institutions out of Europe put us on. And I
Yeah.
want you guys to know this woman's name, Marla Ducaran. She's a Trinidad
Yes.
and Caribbean economist. I did a fireside chat with her at my Digital Caribbean event. You can go to my Ingrid Riley YouTube and you'll see the whole event there. The first
Yeah.
30 minutes is me talking to her about what this blacklisting of countries like Jamaica and other Caribbean countries does to
Mm.
the culture of financial of fintech innovation,
Yeah.
how it actually taints perception of what we do and how we do and and how it actually can also help to stifle and to stymie financial fintech innovation. And so there is that aspect of things as well, which is why there's
Ingrid, your audio. I think your audio.
And Mr. Ingrid chipping a one gear, I was hanging on to every word. Let's see if we can reconnect. Um if we can reconnect with with Ingrid. But I can totally relate with what she was saying
Yeah.
around how the international scene and space looks upon us and what these different blacklisting, etc. I know for a fact that a lot of even before COVID, there were. Okay, all right.
okay.
We
Okay,
get to
beautiful.
Where were we? We were at Ducaran.
Right, Marla Ducaran was questioning the validity of this blacklist, right?
Yeah.
yes,
Because the people who actually created this criteria, the institutions that created this criteria of this blacklist, were primarily were all white institutions, and they're also had there and the people that actually the countries that actually put on this list were primarily former colonies of European countries. So she has accused them of being not just institutionally racist, but also
yes,
institutionally bullying
yes,
countries like ours,
yes,
and not, of course, tending to the corruption and the money laundering and the stuff that is in their own backyards. Because we've had
yeah,
over the past maybe 3 months a bunch of news that has come out of a whole bunch of shit that has happened in Europe because of these institutions that can't actually manage and handle what is happening in their own backyard, yet still they're set themselves up as the arbiters of standards for the rest of the world. So
yes.
there's that also that is there for us to consider. But generally, I think the BOJ is heading generally in the right direction. I don't think, and I know that they're being overly cautious for a number of reasons, but I don't like the idea of one institution that will determine who gets to play in the sandbox, how things come out in a timely manner. And, it's something that I actually want to talk to the people at BLG about to sort of do a deep dive to understand some more about how that works. Because I know that there are a bunch of startups, a bunch of entities in Jamaica that are creating some fantastic pieces of software for some fantastic solutions. There, in
Yeah.
fact, is a somewhat of what I call a rush to buy into and to buy um, fintech startups across
Yeah.
the region. And I've been asked to try and find some because there's a
Mm.
lot of money right now chasing
Before you start
Caribbean
talking about
companies.
fintechs across the Caribbean, though, I want to stick up here. And what you just said to me remind me of, you remember when the USA issued their what was it called? FATCA? What was it
Yeah.
called? So
Mhm.
yeah, I remember, and they're basically forcing Caribbean institutions,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right, to conform
That's them.
to that.
Yeah.
Stricter and
Yeah,
more
right.
robust.
So it's
Mhm.
almost like we're held hostage if you don't do
Yes.
what we say. Then
Not
so
almost.
on one hand, so
Do as
from
I
one
say,
hand,
as I do.
they say, well,
That's
you
correct.
guys are not doing enough.
All right.
You can do this, that, and that. But when we say, okay, let's do it, they go, well, if you
Yeah.
want to do it, you have to. So it's kind of like calling us down and belittling us for not moving ahead and using the tech. And then when we said, okay, we're going to use the tech,
That's
they go, well,
correct.
now we're going to put barriers in your way towards the tech.
Yeah,
Yes,
because
because we
once
can't we,
Lord,
we can't we
once you
can't overlook we
learn,
can't overlook we can't overlook geopolitics in all of this
yeah,
because we're talking
right.
about the ease and flow of money and wealth, right?
yeah,
And
Yeah,
that in itself equates to power, right? And it equates to influence. So we have
yeah,
that layer that we also be thinking about as well, you know. So yeah, so
yeah,
it is. So when you have the big guys, the big countries, the Americas, the China, the Europeans who are playing that geopolitical game, they're using the muscle that they have and the influence that they have to
hold
set a
on to
tone
power.
or to probably even suppress or stifle
mhm,
what can happen in a region unless to give them time to actually move things forward for them themselves or say, you know what, because of time and everything, we have now created this platform. No, you have to come and play on in our playground with our
Yeah,
rules
yeah.
mhm.
versus us basically who know who we are and how we want to play and what is best for our own
Well,
citizens
yeah.
and creating our own playground and our own sandbox.
And we're kind of getting it from either side too. So there's this
Yeah.
external pressures, but then there
Yeah.
are internal pressures because if it is that BOJ is going to put certain restrictions in place, which means that in effect, the banks of Jamaica control, still they're in control of how far we develop these things, then we're getting it from both ends because
Yeah.
they're certainly
Absolutely.
not making it any easier here too. And
Hmm.
we know how risk averse our banks are. So that's a whole nother conversation altogether.
Yeah, and by nature,
Totally.
that's by nature. That's the financial industry generally. They tend to
Yeah.
be trying to mitigate against risk because of all the elements that they have to deal with. But regardless of that, I'm very excited about what entrepreneurs are doing across the region. They're trying to basically play the game and says, hi, okay, you know what? If we come up with these solutions and we have to partner with a bank, then okay, hopefully what they're doing is to negotiate from a position of power because a lot of these banks over the last number of years, from the NCBs and others across the region, have been either having startup competitions,
Yes.
innovation competitions, because they're seeking new ideas because they don't have those ideas or
Hmm.
that talent or that expertise inside. And that is a
Hmm.
natural part of what organizations will do to
Do.
sort of us
Yeah.
stay ahead of the curve and to innovate using this what is available within the ecosystem. So
But
it's
Yeah.
interesting times.
what's interesting though, Ingrid, is that they've been putting out a lot of calls and a lot of things have
Hmm.
been happening over the past couple of years. So before
Yeah,
COVID, before everything, but
yeah.
how many of those technologies have been brought to market, have been rolled out? Like
Mm.
that's that's a whole nother conversation. I think one of the major things that we have to talk about before we go is
Hmm.
when in looking at the fintech conversation is all about online and mobile payments.
Hmm.
Because the biggest thing right now we've been seeing is e-commerce and trying to get people to, online.
Hmm.
How do you see that fintech can help when it comes to businesses actually going online and facilitating things like our mobile payment gateways and stuff
Hmm.
like that?
Well, the beautiful thing about COVID is that it has forced, digital acceleration on all levels. From the
First,
consumer, it
yes.
has, the consumer has been driving the behavior, and of course, the businesses have had no choice but to go online because we
Yeah.
ain't out there trying to get COVID, just trying to buy bread or whatever. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
So thankfully, there is a heightened sense of, oh my goodness, we simply must be able to allow consumers to see our services and products and be able to use different kinds of payments to get those services and products, whether they're ordering food for delivery or ordering groceries, or they want to buy a T-shirt or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've been seeing over the past 6 months, especially a plethora of these digital first services and products that from new people or from old people or people who have actually businesses that have actually been in the industry, then all say, right, hold on, we're
They're
really,
pivoting.
really they're pivoting like crazy because they had no choice to. And sometimes that's what's happened to has have to happen because
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
culture, we were kind of laid back, and a lot of the brands were very lazy.
Yeah.
And they took customers for granted. They weren't aware of the consumer trends. They weren't aware of the data around consumer trends in terms of what people wanted to do and how they wanted to do online. Now they're forced to actually do that. And so yes, within the whole overall fintech conversation, being able to accept credit cards, debit cards online to do certain things have been a bugbear. Give an example, myquickplate.com. Monique Powell, entrepreneur, she's been part of our Kingston Data tech community for ages. Doing very well. But when she was setting up myquickplate.com, she had to go overseas to set up
Yeah.
her company for her to be able to actually start accepting credit cards on her website. That is a business that is what's operating in Kingston, Jamaica. Now, thankfully, because the banks have caught up, in terms of being able to offer the service, being able to offer it at a price that is more reasonable than it was previously, and they're not taking 3 months to set you up. I think they're now down to like 2 weeks to set you up. And so now that is a little bit more palatable where that is concerned. And there are a lot of businesses that, NCB is rolling out some things, Sagicor is rolling out some things because they've had no choice now but to offer these things, these new services and new products and these apps. Are they perfect? Nah, right? Because again, they were
We can from far and see.
yeah, they were slow to innovate because guess what? A lot of them didn't have to. Let's just be real.
Yeah. Yeah.
The banks were collecting a crap load of fees. They were happy to see a lineup from now straight out the door to come and to do their services. No,
Yeah.
everybody's like, no, we're not coming into your bank. We don't want to come into your bank. We want to be able to open up our bank account. We want to be able to transfer our banks. We want to be able to get our cards. We want to be able to set up our payment gateways. So I'm seeing where, in just generally, the banks are having to step up. There are a number of entrepreneurs that are setting up digital wallets, payment gateways. They're helping businesses that are able to set up their online shops as well. And just generally, to sort of, again, design and deliver and automate those kind of services that makes it easy for the flow of our money, because the
Yeah.
ease of flow of this money also means the ease and flow and the building of wealth,
Yeah.
and that is really
Exactly.
important.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so
And you see, for a
right
long time,
now,
Ingrid, we've
yeah,
been having conversations because most of the conversations we have around e-commerce and online and stuff like this is okay, what are the workarounds? How can
oh,
we work around the local system? I don't think we've actually
Go
confronted
roll.
the local system and say, hey guys, get with it. What are you guys doing? So I know some banks are getting on board, but the process is still onerous for a lot of
yeah,
small business people.
yeah,
They're not gonna have the documentation that you're asking for. Not
yeah,
everybody's a Monique, you know what I mean? Monique is
yeah,
an established business. She has been in this thing for some
yep,
while. And then the
yep,
fees are also cost prohibitive, as we said earlier, because even though it's lower
yeah,
than it was before, how much people can afford it right now? So what about the
yeah,
little man? The little man where whatever him do, him sell a little thing or do a little thing and him want to have access to this thing so him can move online. We're telling people to think innovatively and think about other ways of doing things, but then we put the barriers in their
yeah,
way. And I
yeah.
think mobile and online payment is such a simple, it's such a
Simple
simple
thing.
thing.
Such a
And
simple
yet
thing. Well,
here we are having this discussion and all we can say is, well, they might do something.
Yeah.
Yes, that's all we can say in 2020 going into 2021. And even with the prime minister making big calls to
Yep.
Declarations.
innovate and innovate and innovate. And this is why I have a problem with the BOJ sandbox, because it cannot be that the banks determine this, because they're not going to determine out of their interest.
That's
No.
Okay,
correct.
they
That is
have a
correct.
stake in not moving so fast, because then, as you said earlier, it gives them time to catch up.
Catch up.
That's
And the
correct.
fact that they're in a position to know what local innovators are thinking, and then being able to
Hmm.
borrow their ideas, which is funny
Hmm.
because NCB come up with them freelancing platform just months after the Hive, and I'm going, coincidence? Okay.
No. But
Okay.
that's pretty much the nature of industries, because again,
Yeah.
that's why when I hosted that fintech panel
Mhm.
for BizTech, I think it was last week or the week before,
Yeah.
I asked the NCB representative that question, that if we are in fact being asked to partner with a bank like NCB, what are
Hmm.
they interested in? Are they interested in buying into, buying out, or actually partnering,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so
Or competing, because
exactly,
that is the
because
next one.
that is correct. But you see, that is the nature of the industry, that there's going to be competition, that the sharks are going to eat the smaller fish. That's part of
Mhm.
the scenario. But I think we have to still, and you have the Sagicors and the NCBs and those guys. They have the money, they have the
Yeah.
They
muscle,
have the
they have.
backing, yeah. They
That's
have the money
correct.
to back it. Mhm.
But what I find out, a couple of the fintech startups that I've spoken to over the last couple of weeks, is that they're partnering with the NCBs and the Sagicors, but they're also calling some of the shots, because the Sagicors and the NCBs need
Need
them,
them.
right? And so they're able to call the shots and negotiate differently as well, because again, it's not just them competing with the startups; it's them competing with each other. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? As to who, so it's going to be interesting, I think, over the next couple of years to see. But at the same
How it
time,
actually goes.
and of course, there's Quisk and their Q Mall, and
Yeah.
Cool Market, and
Cool
their
Market,
malls as well.
JA deals, and yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a whole
There's
bunch of
several.
stuff.
Yeah.
So
Um,
it's interesting times.
Yeah. Well, when I was at time, but I wanted to talk to
Yep.
you, and you kind of we talk about the BOJ already and the
Hmm.
sandbox, but I wanted to talk to you. Do you think this whole digital currency thing that the BOJ is doing is one way that we can bridge certain gaps? Because if we,
Hmm.
because we make Barbados beat us to the punch, right?
Yeah.
But if it is that we can introduce this thing, and we can say to small, even small vendors, that hey,
Yeah.
this is an opportunity for you to
Hmm.
offer other payment options online
Yeah.
using this currency. Do you think it's a way that we can then bridge the gaps while we work on the quote unquote bigger things?
Without question, in BOJ, but also Jamaica Stock Exchange, they want to put out their own digital currency, which is going to be Jamaican dollars. It's
Ooh.
almost like basically making a digital version of the Jamaican dollar, and that
Yeah.
could
Right.
help, especially in terms of moving mobile money a lot quicker. So the vendor,
Yeah.
we can do the peer-to-peer transactions very
Yeah.
easily, or the customer to micro business very quickly. So again, the ease and flow of that money, and being able to build wealth. So only time will tell. Let's see. We can check in with them in another 6 months to see exactly if it was just simply all talk,
Hmm.
Yeah,
or they
because
actually
they've been
move
doing a
things
lot.
into
Yeah.
action.
They've been
Yeah, because,
testing.
but they have no choice now. Is that I think the consumers are pushing them to do
Mhm.
differently. But also
Yeah.
there's additional international pressure. The Googles,
Yes.
the Facebooks, that are seeking to make some of these banks irrelevant. They will still probably
Yeah.
partner with them to a certain extent, but in some respects as well, they're making them irrelevant. And
Yeah,
so a
because you
lot of.
have Google
Yep,
Pay, Apple
yep,
Pay, all sorts.
yep,
You have so many mobile
yep,
e-wallets and all sorts of stuff.
yep,
Because right now we don't use our local systems, and we're able to accept money online, even though we had to go through this long process. But we
absolutely.
have options, and that is what these institutions locally don't
I
realize.
like to
We
see.
have options. We
Options.
don't have to
Exactly.
rely on you anymore. And it just takes one enterprising person to decide to them going to come up with a digital bank, and
That's
you're
it.
now
That's something.
rendered irrelevant.
That's something that we spoke about at BizTech as well. I mean, how sweet will it be to have an all digital bank? where you don't
There
have
you
to leave
go.
your yard to open up your account, to get
Yeah.
your card, to set up whatever it is. But
Yeah.
that's why I said the next 6 months to a year is going to be super interesting.
All right. We have 1 minute left, Ingrid, and I want to really ask you, what are the new Caribbean tech companies that we should be paying attention to right now? Is there any that you see that is, really spark your interest, like you're going, yeah, these people, yeah.
You should definitely be looking at WePay out of Trinidad. They've partnered with MasterCard to offer online payment solutions across the region. BITT out of Barbados. Do
Out
not
of
take your eye off of
Barbados.
them.
Yeah,
They have been the
yeah.
pioneers in the digital currency
The currency.
and
Yeah,
space for a number of years as well. There is what's happening in Aruba, in Bahamas, and of course here in Jamaica. You want to look to companies like Orba One and some others that I can't yet
yeah.
speak about, but there's a pulsing beneath the surface of very interesting things in fintech, because everybody's going after that money, because if you're busting at that space there,
Your boss
you're
Yes,
way.
good.
your boss.
You're good.
You're bossing us some money.
Ingrid, you really want to say thank you for
Yeah, but before you go though, Ingrid, I know Ingrid don't like this line of a conversation, because Ingrid don't feel like we should include the government. Not at all. Ingrid, I know you are, your position is we should be the innovators. We shouldn't expect government um to really innovate. And just saying that, I lost my question, but we'll
Yes.
talk off here,
Awesome.
Ingrid. I
All
just
right.
lost my train of thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Government should create an environment that facilitates innovation and stay
There
out of
you
the
go.
way, and allow us to innovate and bring new things to the market.
Yes,
Da
and
da
not,
dee.
not stifle us along the way. All right, guys. So very quickly, I just want to let you guys know our digital Jamaican of the week. And this is a gentleman by the name of Carlon Edmondson. Now, Carlon is an illustrator and a music composer. Why we're highlighting him, Carlon's music has been featured in HBO's new podcast, Between the World and Me. It's a companion podcast for a new film of the same name. Now, he's been creating music, and especially for content creators professionally, for over the past 3 years. But he's been into his music and stuff since he was so short. His digital art is absolutely stunning, and we're going to encourage you guys to check him out. His art is Kone Lives, KONELIVES. Guys, this was an amazing conversation.
Yes,
Thank
and we
you
want to thank
so
Ingrid.
much. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to thank Ingrid Riley, our special guest, and everyone who passed through today. Yes, Carlon. Make sure that you stay tuned and you keep in touch with us. Remember, last week was our last show for the year. So next week, Thursday at 8 p.m. for another Digital Jamaica Live with Kadia Francis.
And
Kadia.Francis.
Monique McIntosh at I am that. I am my accent are coming. I am that Monique McIntosh, and you
And
can
remember, launch
us.
21 starts next
Right.
Friday. Digital Disruption Agency.
All
Bye.
right, guys.